Our society's obsession with calories has brainwashed us into eating less food and eating more poison. Diet culture says eat less calories, so people cut back on food overall. But it didn't stop there. Food companies started slamming us with marketing for low-calorie foods. For the last several decades, people have been making all of their eating decisions based only on the number of calories foods contain rather than the amount of nutrients they contain. Remember the last video when I showed you all the toxic junk products found in grocery stores that hijack your body's systems? Most of them are actually marketed as low-calorie foods. We're led to believe that they magically removed calories somehow, and that's a good thing. But the truth is, the way they remove calories is by removing nutrients. Let me tell you why this is so damaging. The only reason you eat food is to get nutrients. Let me say that again. The only reason you eat food is to get nutrients. A calorie is not a nutrient. Your body doesn't even know what a calorie is. It has no idea. The amount of calories you eat doesn't send any signals whatsoever to your body. Nutrients, on the other hand, are the instructions for your metabolism. Stop thinking about food as calories and start thinking about food as nutrients. The more nutrients you give your body, the better it will function and the more energy it will create. Here's a quick rundown of nutrients. We have macronutrients, which the body requires in large amounts. These are usually measured in grams: protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Then we have micronutrients, which the body requires in small amounts, usually measured in milligrams or even micrograms. These are your vitamins and minerals: fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, water-soluble vitamins like vitamin C and all 9 of the B vitamins, electrolytes like sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, and over 90 other trace minerals. Here's the thing. If you become deficient in any of these nutrients, your metabolism will not function properly, period. In fact, if you become severely micronutrient deficient, your body will no longer be able to turn the food you eat into energy, and nearly all of the calories you consume will be stored, which means more body fat. When I work one-on-one with clients, I teach them about nutrient density, meaning the amount of nutrients per bite of food. The more nutrients food contains, the more nutrient dense it is. If you begin to choose what you eat based on nutrient density rather than calories, your entire life will transform. Lucky for you, all of the foods on the approved foods list in your custom nutrition plan have been hand-selected by me for maximum nutrient density. The reason most of society doesn't even know about this concept is because the most nutrient-dense foods on Earth contain more calories than foods with little or no nutrients. But again, the only reason we eat food to begin with is to get nutrients. So think about it. For 70 plus years now, people have been choosing what foods to eat based on the number of calories in a food, never thinking at all about nutrient density. Diet culture has given us a truly deadly combination here. Not only have you been focusing on eating less food overall, but the low-calorie foods you have been eating contain no nutrients. As a result, you're eating some number of calories, you're storing body fat, and you're also somehow extremely malnourished. And when you're malnourished, you can't create energy. And as you already know, the low energy state is the primary driver of all obesity and chronic disease. Now that you understand nutrient density, let's talk about lighting your metabolic furnace. I want you to picture a furnace. The furnace has little flames that are burning 24/7. You use logs as fuel for your furnace. When you throw a log into the furnace, it gets burned and creates flames and energy in the form of heat. The more logs you throw into the furnace, the bigger the flames will become, and the more heat, energy, the furnace will produce. If you keep throwing more and more fuel into the furnace, then the flames will get bigger, and tons of energy will get produced. Now let's say you decide to throw twigs into the furnace instead of logs. The twigs will burn up very quickly and won't produce much heat at all. If the only fuel you ever put into the furnace is twigs, it won't create much energy, right? The flames will remain small and not much heat will be created. Next, imagine what will happen if every time you throw twigs into the furnace, you spray them with a fire extinguisher. What do you think will happen? Well, of course, the flames won't be able to burn the twigs. Not only will the furnace not produce heat, but the twigs will just sit there, unable to be burned because they're covered in chemicals. If you do this every time you put new twigs into the furnace, eventually, the furnace will be full of twigs and chemicals. The flames will not be able to create energy, and you will have a giant buildup of twigs that spills out of the furnace. Now here's the thing. Ready to have your mind blown? This furnace is your metabolism. The furnace you've been picturing is similar to your human metabolism that is responsible for creating all of the energy you need to live. The logs are nutrient-dense, real foods. The twigs are low-calorie processed products with no nutrients. And the fire extinguisher chemicals are all of the toxic ingredients found in those low-calorie products, like seed oils, high fructose corn syrup, processed grains like pasta, bread, pastries, and pizza, artificial flavors, food colorings and dyes, heavy metals, and more. Your body doesn't have enough food, to begin with because you're always cutting calories and restricting yourself. This is the equivalent of only putting twigs in the furnace. And the processed products you're choosing to eat have toxic ingredients in them which break your metabolism and prevent it from burning the calories you eat. This is the equivalent of spraying the furnace with a fire extinguisher every time you eat. If you picture all these unburned twigs piling up in the furnace and then spilling out all over the place, that is your stored body fat. All of the calories you're eating build up and get stored as body fat instead of being burned for energy, even when you're following a low-calorie diet. But what happens when you start to fuel your metabolic furnace properly? If all the foods you're eating are nutrient-dense, real foods, it's like only adding logs to the furnace. The more fuel you put into the furnace, the bigger the flames will get and the more energy you will create. Low-calorie diets full of processed products means low energy. Diets full of real food and plenty of it means high energy. Some of you may have come into this program already understanding that toxic ingredients in your food can damage your metabolism. But it's critically important to understand that not giving your body enough food overall will also damage your metabolism. Here's the thing, and prepare yourself for this because, yet again, I'm going to go against everything you've ever been told about weight loss and overall health and wellness. Constantly cutting calories and always living your life in a calorie deficit is actually causing the very problem that you're trying to solve. Put another way, cutting calories is part of the reason you can't burn body fat. Are you starting to understand just how horrible mainstream diet information is for your health? I really cannot overstate it. It's absolutely horrible. Quite literally, mainstream diet advice is the worst possible advice to follow if you truly want to be healthy. But even in health-conscious circles, people are making the same mistake. People might remove processed junk foods from their diets, but they still restrict their calories in a catastrophic way. They're constantly underfueling their bodies. But wait, there's more. We can't talk about diet culture without talking about fitness culture because the two go hand in hand. Imagine your poor metabolic furnace. It doesn't have enough fuel, and you've been spraying it with a fire extinguisher at every meal. It can barely generate enough energy to keep your organs alive. Then, you decide with what little energy you have available, you're going to start doing hard workouts. Running on a treadmill or elliptical machine for hours, doing spin classes or high-intensity interval training, boot camp classes, CrossFit, you name it. That's like asking a tiny wood stove to heat an entire city. It's just not going to happen. When you are living in a low-energy state, yet force yourself through insanely difficult workouts, you give the body no choice. Since you insist on exercising, it needs to take what little energy it has available and give it to your muscles so you can perform the exercise you're demanding the body does. But again, the body already doesn't have enough energy for your organs to function at their best. Yet, the fitness industry continues to scream at you, no pain, no gain. So you suffer through these workouts. The only thing left for your body to do is shut down organ functions even further because you're using up all of its precious energy for these ridiculous workouts. What's the first thing to go when this happens? Sexual function and fertility. This is why so many elite female athletes, like gymnasts, often experience amenorrhea, or loss of menstrual cycle. They're in a low energy state. If you constantly send signals to your body that there's not enough energy for you, the last thing it's going to do is bring another life into this world. Your libido will go down, your sex hormones will plummet, you'll feel tired all the time, your sleep will suffer, your hair, skin, and nails will start to look thin and look old, on and on it goes. All because every single thing you're doing in a desperate attempt to lose weight is forcing your body further and further into a low energy state. After your sex hormones, things only get worse from there. You'll start storing body fat. Chronic illnesses will creep in. Digestive issues like IBS, Crohn's, and more. Your hormones will be so out of whack that issues like PCOS, insulin resistance, and full-blown diabetes will start showing up. And you'll be suffering from such a lack of energy that you'll fall into states of depression and anxiety. More on this in a later video. Your body temperature will also plummet, which leads to bacterial overgrowths like SIBO, and you'll become more susceptible to viruses. In fact, studies have shown that for every 1 degree rise in body temperature, The replication rate of some types of viruses is slowed by an exponential factor of 200 times. As long as your metabolic furnace is not burning properly, you're going to suffer. But there's another way, a better way, and that's why you're here, of course. Your custom nutrition plan is carefully designed to give your metabolic furnace everything it needs to create boundless energy within you. Before you know it, your metabolic furnace will be a raging inferno, and your health and wellness will thrive in ways you never thought imaginable. Before we dive into the next video, your custom nutrition plan, I'm going to share a quick and easy way for you to measure your own metabolic furnace function, your body temperature. Many women are already using body temperature to naturally track their cycles, but few of them know that this is actually the best way to track their metabolic function. All you need is a cheap digital thermometer. I've included a link in the description of this video. If the link I've shared isn't available in your location, you can find countless thermometers online. Just make sure you get one that is accurate within 1/10 of a degree. A good option is to buy a thermometer brand that is normally used for women naturally tracking their cycles. I want you to take your body temperature 3 times throughout the day, each time using a thermometer in your armpit. The first reading will be when you first wake up, before you even sit up or get out of bed. The next reading will be 30 minutes after your first meal of the day. And the last reading will be once in the afternoon between about 3 to 5 p.m. I've included a PDF cheat sheet with detailed instructions for these readings and a spreadsheet for tracking. Here's what we want to see. Your morning temperature should be at least 97.6 to 98.2. Your temperature 30 minutes after your first meal should be at least 97.7 to 98.6. Your afternoon temperature should be as close to 98.6 as possible. If you're falling short of these temperatures, you can bet you're suffering from metabolic dysfunction, and there's plenty of room for improvement. An important note, if your temperature 30 minutes after your first meal is lower than your temperature was when you first woke up, this means you're living in a chronically stressed state, and it is absolutely imperative that you correct things and follow your plan precisely. A lower temperature after you eat means the higher body temperature first thing in the morning was actually a false temperature. Your stress hormones were severely elevated, just enough to give you enough energy to get out of bed and get going. When you ate food, it lowered your stress hormones, and you were able to see a more accurate body temperature reading. In a healthy metabolism, your body temperature 30 minutes after a meal will always be higher than your morning temperature because you've thrown a bunch of fuel into your metabolic furnace and your body is properly creating a ton of energy from that food.